Aloha, my name is Julie Mitchell, and I am the Executive Director here at Ikahi Mediation Center. I'm sorry, I'm having a technical difficulties. Just give me 1 minute here. Okay, let's start that over again. Okay, aloha, my name is Julie Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director here at Ikahi Mediation Center, and Ikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center that serves all of East Hawaii. We are one of 5 mediation centers in the state. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the Island of Hawaii YMCA, and in 2006, we became our own independent nonprofit organization. So we're 15 years or 38 years, however you would like to count that. Our mission is to empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options and to find their own best solutions. To achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and training to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. Our Brown Bag Lunch series is held every 3rd Thursday at 12 noon on Zoom, and you just need to register each time to receive the Zoom link and the reminders. I would like to tell you about another exciting event that we have coming up. It is called Making Peace with Conflict, Self-Discovery and Community Building with Lolo Haha. And yes, that is a chosen name. It is a free workshop on December 1st. It's from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And here's the description of it. How might our world change if we could lean into conflict more boldly and see conflict as an opportunity for self-discovery and community building? And Lolo Haha, the presenter, he's a counselor, equity consultant, conflict mediator, and social justice theater director based in Oregon. You can join Lolo for this interactive 2-hour workshop and learn to view conflict as an opportunity, identify tools to approach conflict from this new perspective, and process your personal barriers to approaching conflict. And I'm going to put a link to the registration for that in the chat right now in case you would like to join us for that. As I mentioned, it's free. So at the end of this talk, we are going to ask you to fill out a short online survey, which helps us for grant funding with this free series. And when I put the survey link in the chat at the end, please do take a minute to click into it and give us your thoughts. I'll also send the email later, including some handouts from Jani and the video link for this program. If you're not sure we have your email, please do put it in a chat to me, like if you are sharing the Zoom link with a friend. And then I can get you on that list. And if you like this talk today, please register for more in the future. Our next speaker on December 21st is Dawn Menken, and she's going to be speaking on the topic, a radical approach to political discourse, positioning the leader as facilitator. And again, I'm going to put a link to that event in the chat if you would like to check that out. So without further ado, please let me introduce our speaker. Jani Sheppard is president of LJS Leadership Solutions and brings 35 years of practical and successful experience from her previous nonprofit roles, including as CEO, executive director, training director, and public health professional. A consultant, trainer, and executive coach, Jani specializes in DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as leadership, organizational, and employee development. She has provided services in Hawaii, the continental US, and Canada. So if we can give a virtual Zoom round of applause for Jani, take it away, please.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Julie. Hi, everyone. Oh, thank you. I see the little hands. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Aloha. I am super excited for today because I haven't been, except for coaching clients, I used to live on Maui, and I haven't done a workshop with my Maui peeps for a really long time. Or my Hawaii peeps. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much. Today you may have signed up because we were talking about self-care, and that's what we're going to do, but it's also about work-life balance. And before we move on, I just wanted to get a little sense of how many of you are management or a supervisor. If you could just raise some kind of hand, virtual, real. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Anybody else in that supervisory role? Awesome. Okay, great. So it just gives me a sense of who's in our room today. So thank you again, and Ikomamai, welcome. Can we pull up our PowerPoint, please? Thank you. Next slide, please. So for this brief time we have together, we have a couple of things we want to try and do. One is to really talk about the importance of work-life balance and self-care. You're here, so you obviously know that it's important, and that's something that you want to talk about and that you want to have in your life. The other is to identify some foundational thoughts for work-life balance, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But basically, it's not just about going and getting a massage, right? Or going out after work with friends. There's a lot more there that we do, work that we do before we get to a crisis. Or before we feel like we really need to step away from things and have balance. Identify those areas of self-care that we think about self-care, and again, we think about oh, let's take a rest, I'm gonna take a vacation, I'm not gonna check my email, but there are really about 7 areas that I talk about in self-care, from physical, spiritual, emotional, and we're gonna talk a little bit about those. Then there's some myths about self-care. And then there's an opportunity, if you would like, to complete your own self-care assessment using that wheel, that self-care wheel, and then look at how you might want to change or enhance some things in your own life, your own work life, or your personal life, so that you can achieve some maybe more work-life balance. Okay, next slide, please. So I said I would go into a little bit about some foundational thoughts. I often, especially with coaching, you're talking to people a lot about where they're coming from and how they're doing their own self-care. What are they doing to support their energy? What are they doing to support their body? But one of the things is there's some really basic things to think about when we start talking about work-life balance. The first is doing work that you love. So there are people and things that I love. It doesn't mean that I don't need to take a break sometimes, or that I don't benefit from some time away from the things and people that I love. I come back refreshed, and I come back with sometimes different perspective. I come back with new energy and renewed energy. So, but the other is just to make sure that I'm doing stuff that I love. There was a point in my career where obviously, and we all have this point, I believe, where we have to do what we have to do, right? We have to pay the mortgage, we have to pay tuition, we have to do all those things, we need to have a home, all of that. And we know that. However, within that, how do we choose paths and journeys and work that we love? And that way, that's a part of self-care, is actually choosing work that I love, right? Finding ways to love what I do. Can't always choose what I love to do. But when I'm doing it, I can sometimes have control over how's my perception of what's happening here? How can I choose and find ways to love what I'm doing, or find things to love in the work that I'm doing? The other is to cultivate and nurture relationships, whether those are family relationships or friendships, work, ohana, it doesn't matter. Finding ways to making sure that we're cultivating and nurturing relationships. Because when we come back, right, if I'm with you and I leave you for a while and I need some support, I want a relationship to come back to, not a person. If I even left you, whatever, but not a person, but really about a relationship. Know and share and celebrate your culture. This is one that I added, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 ago. And I added this because it's such a wonderful opportunity for others, right, to learn about your culture. But when you talk about loving yourself and loving on yourself, right, when you know your culture and you can share it and you can celebrate it, it's amazing. It's empowering. It's joyful. Sometimes there's pain in there, of course, but it's joyful to be able to know who you are, where you come from. And I say the next piece is to stand in the strength of the 10,000 who came before you. And I got this from, I think it was Oprah that said it. She started with this about these, she wasn't up on a stage by herself. She was standing with the 10,000 that came before her, and the power and the support and the wisdom that came from that. So when that whole idea of self-care, of feeling maybe alone or not supported, even though there's no one in the room at the time, maybe, or at your desk when you have that light on at night, or in bed with your notebook or your tablet, there's still these 10,000 people who have come before you that helped you to get where you are and helped to prepare the world and you for where you are now. And so being able to just kind of connect with that is another amazing piece of self-care. Need less. If I want more, I need to make more. I need to make space for more. I need to allow more space in my life. So one of the things that I found helpful as part of this foundational work is to need less. This is what I want. This is what I need. And when I need less, I have so much more space for all of those other things that I actually really want, and being really clear and intentional about that. Embrace humility. We're going to talk a little bit about not delegating and delegating. And it's like, well, I don't want to delegate because, somebody else might not be able to do it the way I do it. Or they might do it better. And I'm not sure I'm really prepared to be in that spot either. And so being able to embrace humility as a foundational thought, a foundational piece of self-care. Play and laugh and play and laugh. I cannot say that enough. My professional background is working with a lot of groups and communities where there's a lot of pain, whether it was incarcerated folks with HIV, whether it was for child abuse and neglect, intimate partner abuse, all kinds of things. And still within that, there's opportunities in that work and the people that you're with and the environment to build into their play and laughter. It's so, it's just a way to kind of release, right? But also it's about balance, right? Because everything's not awful, everything's not great, but it really is about balance. So learning about how to incorporate and ensure that you have play and laughter in your life, but also in your day and at work. Be authentic. If I'm not authentic, I spend a lot of energy making sure people don't know I'm not being authentic. So if I'm authentic, then I'm not spending that level of energy trying to convince anyone of who I am, what I can do, what my skills are, or letting them know that I make mistakes and that that's okay and I own up to them, but making sure that you're being authentic. Ask for what you need. This is a hard one a lot. I know with a lot of, or several, I should say, of my coaching clients, this one is a really difficult one. Asking for what I need. Well, if I ask for what I need, what if someone says no? That's the biggie, right? What if they say no? Well, if they say no, you're really not in any worse off shape than you are, right? And you still don't have it, but you asked. The other is if I ask for what I need, someone may think or think that I am or perceive me as being not competent or not being able to do the job, not being up for the task, etc. And so this is going back to that humility part too, right? But when I ask for what I need, how often I find that people are, for the most part, happy to give it. And that includes space, right? It includes time. It includes help. And sometimes that's what I need. I need help. I'm working with a new group this week, and it requires me to use technical skills and computer skills that I just struggle with, absolutely struggle with. And I found myself on Tuesday, I think it was, Monday, going through and spending an inordinate amount of time trying to do something myself, when all I really needed to do was to reach out. But because I'm new and working with this group, I realized I was like, oh, I don't want them to think that I can't do this. And that didn't last very long because I was wasting a lot of time, right? So anyway, asking for what I need, asking for what I need to be me, to get my work done, etc. The other is practicing gratitude. I really love when I'm in a meeting and it's so organic and natural when people are thanking each other and literally saying, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate your question. I appreciate your struggle. I appreciate that you're here, even though it's really hard for you. So just really learning to embrace gratitude and to practice it. Also to appreciate silence. Sometimes I think our stress, and when I chat with folks, myself included, is trying to fill that silence. Are we okay? No worries. Okay, so sometimes trying to fill that silence, and that's a lot of work because it doesn't always need to be filled. Sometimes the silence just needs to be. And it's okay. And it's not always, our responsibility, and there's not always a need to fill it, right? Because other people have needs in that space. And maybe it's okay that there's just some silence. And this one, just love unto yourself as you would unto others. So, you look at other people and, oh, I will help them, right? I will help you. I will go to the grocery store. I will cook for you. Now, for me, I might just go through and get something at Whole Foods or, a drive-through or whatever. But for you, I need to make a really nice, nutritious meal. Well, how about if I do that for me too, right? Making time to have a nice, nutritious meal or whatever the project is. But do the way that you love on and support others, particularly as leaders and supervisors, and as family members, also to be able to see if you can transfer and do that for yourself. Well, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it, but I don't have time for that. I'm fine. But then we move along on that path and find out we're not really so fine. What would be really helpful if we would have given some of that nurturing and love to ourselves and treating ourselves as that special person that we treat clients and individuals and consumers and neighbors and partners, and but doing that for ourselves. Next slide, please. So how do we get here? I sometimes refer to myself as a recovering 60-hour work person. I used to say things like, oh my gosh, I'm on my 22nd day of work. That's true. I've worked 18 hours today. I've only had 6 hours of sleep. Oh my gosh, I was on the plane from Maui to Oahu, and I was up and coming down Haleakala, and then I got over there and did my work, and on the way back, on the plane on the way back, I still got some work done. And then I drove home and pulled out my laptop so that I could answer the emails I didn't answer while I was at the meeting on Oahu, right? And by that time, it's like, oh yeah, and I think I might get dinner, right? So it's that whole thing. How do we get here? Well, I can. And if I'm driving, I can do the same thing, right? I just have to hit that little button that says, you can drive in the car. You can talk to me now. It's not a great thing to do. We know it's not, but people do it. Not with the headset, obviously, but I mean, with holding it, but just having conversations and doing work. I'll call you back when I get in the car. I remember that's like one of my favorites to hear is like, really? Like, you can't just be in your car, listen to your music or your audiobook and have just that space between driving from here to here, just to have that space. Give yourself that 20 minutes. Nope, I'll call you back from the car. So it's made it really convenient for us, but it's also made it so that we no longer, I think, are valuing our own space and time, even in our car. If I'm in a public restroom and there are a lot of stalls, I can't believe how many people have their cell phones. That is like, it makes me laugh. And I'm going, wow, you couldn't even go into the restroom without your cell phone. There just needs to be some space between this work and checking emails. The other is Zoom. So the Zoom, because we're on here now, right? And we can connect, which is awesome. And that makes life really easy. And it's actually richer, I think, too, right? Because I would never be able to just come over for lunch and hang out with you guys for lunch, right? Because there's a whole ocean there. So I get to do it from here. So I love Zoom and GoToMeeting and Teams and all of those things. But it's also Zoom fast, right? Because now I need to do everything really quickly so I can get to the next thing because somebody's waiting for me. How often I would go through my day and walk into every single room prior to Zoom and say, I'm so sorry, I just came out of a meeting. I'm so sorry, I just got off a call. I'm sorry, that ran a little bit late. And so first of all, I'm apologizing. Well, I respect people's time, but still, I'm saying that. And what did I do between that last meeting or interaction and the one that I'm going in? I'm not getting present. I'm not setting myself up to be present for the people I'm getting ready to meet with. I'm setting myself up to apologize for running in late. And so anyway, so we have the Zoom. The other is looking at, and I'm sure you guys have done this. I've definitely done it. Hi, here's your out of office message. Hi, aloha. I am going to be out from January 1st to January 15th. However, I'll be checking my email occasionally, just not every day. But why do we even have to put that, right? You see that, it's like, I will be on vacation. I will be out of the office. I'm out. Now, we don't do all of our work in the office. Of course, you can be out of the office for all kinds of reasons. But the point is that if you're off, why does your email say you'll be checking your emails, right? Are there times for that? Absolutely. You know, wrote a $3 million federal grant and we're going to find out about it today. You're darn right. I'm checking my email. I want to know that, right? Or maybe there was a situation that was not quite resolved when I left, or it was a new one. I might want to just check up to make sure, but hopefully I've left someone there that I trust, that can reach me. I'm not going to be unreachable. That's fine, but I don't need to check my email to do that. And I don't need to give that invitation to everyone who gets my email that, hi, I'm available 24/7, basically. Okay, so that's another part of the always available Zoom and take care. Saying, oh yes, of course. One of my friends tell me, I'm sure you do too, like that I use certain words a lot. One of them is awesome. And the other's no worries, no worries, no worries. And so it's fine to say that, right? No problem, no worries, all good, got this, no problem. But if I say that to 10 people for 10 projects, that's when I get stuck. So it's not the saying it, it's saying it for too many people, for too many projects. And all of a sudden I'm at the end of my day looking at that list that I made in the beginning of the day, and none of the things on the list are done, none. But I've done all these other things because I said, no problem, no worries, right? And now I'm exhausted, and you know that story, guys. The other is, I'll get to me later. And later gets to be later and later and PTO hours later. And now I'm losing my vacation time, depending on where you work. I'm losing my time off because I'm only allowed to have so much in the bank, or I am allowed to have a ton in the bank. And that becomes one of my warrior cries, right? I've got 16 weeks of vacation in my bank. It's like, right? And what do? We say, oh my gosh, really? You have 16 weeks? Wow. Instead of saying, what's up, girlfriend? What's up? Why aren't you taking time off? How is it that you have 16 weeks of vacation in your bank? And so just looking at how we even support each other, right? And support that notion of work-life balance. We don't do it just ourselves, but how do we interact with others and say, you know what, if you have 16 hours in your bank, how can I help you use that time? How can I help you leave, right? So we can get that down, and because that's why you're given the time, so you can take it off and regenerate, right? The other I said was no problem, I'll get to you later. If I don't do it, it's not gonna get done. So the last time we had this project, they were supposed to put 5 widgets on 2 tables. And I said very specifically, 2 widgets here, 3 widgets here. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, but they didn't do that. So now this time I need to make sure I'm there to make sure that 2 widgets go here and 3 widgets go here. When at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They could actually even be on the same table if we thought about it, because maybe a different team member has said, I don't even know why we have to have 2 tables. But I'm like, no, you have to have 2 tables, 3 and 5. So, right. So if it doesn't get done, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done well, or won't get done at all. I don't have time to delegate. I don't have time to delegate. It's going to take me so long to teach this person this thing. I might as well just do it myself. Well, great Band-Aid solution in the moment, right? But as we move on, we know that investing time with team members to onboard properly, spending that good time onboarding, spending that good time with training, and I'll even back it up a little bit, spending that really good time interviewing. Spending the good time crafting your job notice so that it attracts the people that you are looking for. And then when you get in that interview process, spending good time in there, investing that time. And then as they come on, investing the time in onboarding and having a calendar for training where people can do that. So, because once you do that, you've got this amazing, functional, phenomenal team member who's informed and can work without you being next to them. Right. And I know I'm making that a little black and white, but right, you know what I mean. So, and the others I don't trust to delegate. If I don't trust to delegate to you, I need to take a look at a couple things. One is, why are you on my team? Why do I have you on my team? Why did I choose you? What other things in the system, whether it be training or mentoring or shadowing, something that I need to do with you or provide and support for you in the culture and the organization for you, so that I do trust you. What is it I don't trust? And so if it's a skill, then let me help you get the skill. If it's a way of interacting or emotional intelligence, some other kind of thing, let me help and let's talk about that. But I need to have people on my team that I can trust. So that's one of the things I love. On my teams, I've been really, really intentional about trust. Because if it doesn't mean that you're going to do it the way I do it, it doesn't mean you're not going to make a mistake or we're not going to make a mistake. But it means that you're going to get an opportunity to get in there and have some ownership. And I'm not going to put that on my email as my out of office email. I won't get credit. And this is an odd one. I think it's kind of hard maybe for some to even say it out loud. But if I've been working on this project and now I delegate part of this to someone else, I'm not going to get credit for all the work that I put in this project. And that might be one of those that's hard to go, well, I would never think such a thing. Okay, I have. And so this is a long time ago, right? You mature past that. But to be able to say we did it is really awesome. And it really feels so good for everyone involved. I don't mean feely like touchy-feely necessarily. I mean really owning something and owning a success. And so sharing that with others, the opportunity to own the success, it's amazing. And so again, being able to say, you know what, I don't need the credit. It needs to be done. And it needs to be done well. And we will get the credit, right, for doing that. And finally, if I want it done, actually it's not finally, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself, which is kind of what we said already. Next slide, please. I can do it on the weekend, right? There's 7 days in the week, not 5, there's 7. So I'll just do it on the weekend, right? And that's not a problem because I just have to drop some kids off for soccer and then get over to pick up the new water heater and then blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just do it then, you know, in between. And I'll take a couple calls too. The other is I don't want people to think I'm whatever. When I'm doing DEI workshops, diversity, equity, inclusion workshops, and we're talking about culture, one is particularly for people of color, people of color, Indigenous people, women. I have to do it better. I have to do more, right? Because then otherwise they will think I'm not good enough. They will think I'm not smart enough, right? They'll think I'm not tough enough. They'll think I'm not compassionate enough, not kind enough, not soft enough, not hard enough. It's going to be enough of something, right? It doesn't matter. And so really getting that, like, where I am when I'm not giving or delegating or doing good stuff for myself because I feel like I have to get in there and do it because I don't want people to think I'm whatever. Hours equals quality and commitment. No. I do a bunch of hours or something. I mean, you know that you can have people that are clocked in during the day on their timesheets or whatever portals you use or whatever you use to clock in. And they're there for lots of hours. But when you come back the next day, what's actually done? And sometimes if we're exhausted or we're overwhelmed or we've got a lot of balls in the air, how effective are we really being in all those extra hours that we're doing? And how many of those extra hours did we spend talking about how many extra hours we were doing, right? So just knowing and being careful, right, about hours don't necessarily equal quality and commitment. And the other is saying there's plenty of time. I get this one in the morning when the alarm goes off and I'm like, I'm exhausted, right? And I'm like, oh, no worries, there's plenty of time. I have plenty of time to get dressed. Like I've set my alarm for an hour and a half. And then it's like, oh no, an hour's plenty of time. And then it's, oh no, I can do everything in a half an hour. And next thing I know, it's like, oh my gosh, 15 minutes, get out, go, right? So that whole, if you take that and put it kind of in your work-life balance situation, I think we kind of do the same thing. Oh, there's time. It's not due till Friday. That's a great one. It's not due till Friday. And next thing you know, it's Thursday and you're sitting there, finishing up something that could have been done on Tuesday. It's going to take me, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If we keep saying that, I believe if we keep saying that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but when does the tunnel end? Right? And who made this tunnel? Why am I in this tunnel? You can take that all kinds of ways, but the bottom line is no, it doesn't need to be this tunnel. It can be a project and a thing that stops, that's still connected to something else, but you have space in between. And so breaking down, I have a project, right? I'm going to build a house. And so, one of those things where you celebrate when the roof is put on, right? The house isn't finished, but people have a celebration when the roof is put on, because that's a really significant part and you can stop and celebrate there. And so I think we can also do that in our work-life balance places. We talked about it's going to take you longer to teach. And also the same thing. I can do this while I'm in the car. I can do it at her game, at her baseball game. I can do it at his concert. Instead of being present for either our team members, our families, our partners, or just being present for that and not having to take time and energy and joy away from the people that I'm with because I'm trying to answer an email that nobody's reading right now anyway. So anyway, next slide, please. So before we move on, I can't see everyone because I can see your names, but does anyone have a thought, comment, question? This sounds crazy. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never experienced any of these things. Okay. Okay, awesome. So what do we mean by self-care? Self-care, I said intentional earlier, and you'll hear me say that a lot. It's an intentional act taken by folks to meet their physical, psychological, spiritual, emotional, personal needs, right? And it's all those little things that we do, whether it's putting some lemon in your water, because that's really good for you and you can do that, whether it's making sure you even have water on your desk, whether it's standing up and doing work, or if you don't have a stand-up desk, putting a big Amazon box with a cover over it and sticking your computer on there so you can stand up a bit and maybe not necessarily sit all the time, whatever works for you. But it's all of those little things that we do to take care of ourselves, but with a purpose. The purpose for that is to avoid breaking down in all of those areas, whether it's psychological, emotional, physical, or spiritual. Next slide, please. And it's one of the myths, and we'll talk about that, is that self-care is a priority and a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's not the thing, it's not dessert, right? It's a big part of the meal. It's part of the prep. It's how we keep it going. And I just think we put so much, we look at work-life balance as something that's extra when I get to that, and it's a luxury. It's not. And we can't pour from an empty cup. We can pour, but what comes out isn't good, right? We can pour, but what comes out is sludge. And so, we want to make sure that we're filling our cup. And to do that, I believe we need to know what fills our cup, right? We need to know what is that fills our cup, because what fills your cup is not what fills my cup, right? I like to jump out of planes and ride motorcycles. That might not fill your cup, right? I kill plants, but you might have this great garden. So whatever happens, right? But I'm just saying whatever it is that fills your cup, and being able to know what that is so that you know what you're filling, right? What you need to put in there. Next slide, please. Why is it difficult? I mean, this all sounds really simple, right? Okay, take care of myself and say no every now and then and don't take on too many responsibilities. Yeah, well, sometimes it is a challenge to do this, and that's why it's practice, and that's a good thing. One is because we just really do have too much to do. And sometimes that's the case. There's just too much to do. There are 3 grants due this week. It's budget week, or budget, the end of the quarter, or forget, maybe even the end of the fiscal year, gosh forbid. And then it's also graduation. And then I also have to be at school for their orientation. Well, not at the end of the year, but you know what I mean, a graduation, let's do graduation. And so all these different, there really is too much to do. So having able to decide, and I'm not going to say prioritize, being able to decide what things are important in that moment that you have the energy for, and what things are actually not non-negotiable. And then what can you really just move? And you're not moving it and saying, I'm going to move this and I don't care about it, or it's not important. You're saying, I can't do it now. The lack or perceived lack of resources. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough people. I don't have enough staff. There are not enough hours in the day. We're not going to get to change the hours in the day. But the other things, we probably do. Again, just going back, we don't have enough to do what we were doing. We can't do with 10 people what we were doing with 100, right? However, we can do some things. We can do really good things. I remember in 2009 in Hawaii, we had, and if you guys remember that, all of the horrible, it was everywhere, but the crash, the economy was awful. And all we kept hearing was, we just have to do more with less. We just have to do more with less. And I remember that. And I remember being in meetings with the Department of Health or DHS or a county or whatever, and some funder or foundation, and going, we can't anymore. We can't do more with less. There is no more. We can keep saying that, and it's a great battle cry in the beginning, but my team is exhausted, and they're not doing well. They're not doing well, and I need them to do well because I really care about the community that we're serving, and they can't serve the community there in the way that we need them to, in the way the community needs and the clients need if they're not well. So no, we cannot do more with less. I don't have any practice. I don't have a lot of practice being able to practice self-care. Well, that's okay. That's no worries. You got to start somewhere. So, we start with whatever good thing you have. I don't have access to the resources I need. I don't have the knowledge or exposure to the things that I need. It's not an important or priority. It's not a priority thing for me to do self-care. I'm tired. I'm too tired to take care of myself. I don't know if you've had that experience where I get this sometimes, not that much, but when I get it, it's really clear. At the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm too hungry or I'm too tired. I'm too tired to eat, and I'm too hungry to get to sleep. Like there's just too much empty in whatever that space is. So tired and low energy. I can't afford it, right? Everyone's not going to get to go on a cruise. People, I say, I'm from Hawaii, and people are like, oh my gosh, you lived in Hawaii. And of course I would say that too, but so everybody can't get to Hawaii, and that's okay. But we can do other things. We can get to our yard if we have a yard. We can get to a park. We can put on earphones and get to music that takes us to a great place. The other is it's selfish. If I'm doing self-care, that's selfish. I mean, and again, back to some of the DEI stuff, sometimes culturally we hear that, that's selfish if you were to take time for yourself. That's not okay. Your job and your role on the planet is to do it differently, to be there for others. And then being alone and not feeling as important as the individual or work that you are attending to versus attending to yourself. Next slide, please. So we have a couple of myths. And one is that self-care is all or nothing, right? Either I get a mani-pedi and a full massage, or I get nothing, right? Nothing at all. Self-care requires resources that you don't have. Nope, we have resources to do that. Self-care is optional. I think you can talk to yourself, other people in your life, and see what happens when we think self-care is optional. We end up ill, right? Remember dis-ease, right? Disease is dis-ease. It's dis-ease in the body. And so when we are not taking care of this vessel, we're in a state of dis-ease, we're going to have pain, we're going to have exhaustion, we're going to forget things, or our mental acuity is not the best it can be. Our creativity isn't the best it can be because we need to rest it, right? We have to earn the right to practice self-care. I'll do it in June when I finish the fiscal year, June 30th. So on July 4th, I'll do it July 4th, but I'm saying this in February, right? So this whole thing, we have to earn it. Or after I finish 10 books or 10 pages or 10 reports, then I'll get to give myself a little break to do this. Is it awesome to be able to tie little marks along the road of what you're doing? Of course, that's great. But then to keep doing it in a larger way and say, I can't do my self-care until this is done, I think we end up not getting ourselves on the list very often, or at least we're shortchanging ourselves. Practicing self-care means making a choice between yourself and others. No, it doesn't. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll go through some of the myths. Self-care is all or nothing, found in the small moments of life when you choose to take a deep breath because you notice that you're feeling stressed, or when you give yourself 3 minutes before bed to sit quietly and reflect on your day, reflect on your kids, reflect on yourself, reflect on the smell or the temperature in the room, reflect on the whatever makes you happy, the smell of whatever cookies were just made, or the feel of the sheets that you love that just feel really comforting, and you're getting ready to go to bed. So whatever that is. So these things that doesn't have to be all or nothing. These little things are important. Next slide, please. You can have 10 minutes of mindfulness, and someone just put in the chat, and I just saw it really briefly about mindfulness because it's perfect, right? I'm sorry I didn't see who said that, but I thank you for putting that in. But self-care requires resources you don't have. you do. We have the ability to do this. You can have 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation or a prayer if that's your space, or do some stretching or yoga or whatever that is for you. But being mindful about where you are, how you're feeling, how those feelings are impacting your body. And then, being able to just kind of sit there with that. It's okay to do that, right? So we don't need a big resource to be able to do that. Next slide, please. Self-care is optional. Our needs can't go unmet for too long, because at the end, I don't know about you, but if you've met people where, oh, my needs have gone unmet for so long, they explode at the end, or all of this comes out gushing because we've not been able to do what we need to do to meet the needs all along. So our self-care is not optional. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Self-care is anything that soothes you, not so much. So self-care practice, they have to support your health and your wellness. And we don't want to have or encourage anything around addiction or compulsive or harmful behavior, anything that's going to mess with your mind or your body or your money, right? So sometimes you hear people say, I don't care. I'm just going to go and take my check and I'm just going to go and do this. Well, now you can't really do that. I mean, you can, but then you're just going to make more stress for yourself. And so we don't want to mess with, again, our bank accounts or move into any addictive behaviors and things like that. Next, please. We have to earn the right to self-care. Our lives are organized culturally. Check this out. Our lives are organized culturally with an emphasis in the first third of our life on education. Okay. The second half, right, we're doing kind of career and family. And this is that putting things off again. The second half, we're doing career and family. And the last third we use for leisure, when I retire. All this is going to happen when I retire. This creates the notion that we can only take good care of ourselves after we've accomplished certain goals. Yet it's self-care that gives us the energy and the nourishment that we need to achieve great things. And I just love this. I mean, this is not mine. This is from Dr. McKelvey, but I just love this whole idea of like, wow, we are kind of trained like that. At the end of the school year, you will take a vacation. But I love this kind of chunking out life and how we kind of are trained in that way. Or at least some of us have been trained in that way. Next one, please. When we're not practicing self-care means making a choice between myself and someone else. Not so much. When we're not taking care of ourselves, we end up in this cycle of not giving ourselves what we need, or cycle of deprivation, frustrated, cranky, needy, looking to other people to nourish our needs. Because the need is still going to be there. The need for the care is not going to go away, whether we take care of it or, no matter if we say we don't want to take care of it, the need's still going to be there, right? I can be hungry, and if I say I'm hungry, but I'm just not going to eat, I don't have time, I'm still going to be hungry, right? When we're meeting our needs, we have more energy to give to others. This was a real struggle with me years ago. When I say years ago, I'm talking about 10 years or so ago. And I was a CEO, and I had such a hard time with this one. But it's taken some time, but I found it to be really helpful. There's nothing greater to offer the world than your inspired and well-nourished self, not the exhausted one, not the one that's running down with a hamburger in her hand or whatever you eat, because you're not sitting down for lunch, or even just the social aspect of sitting down and with people, not the one who hasn't been out to take a walk even in a while. So next one, please. Next slide. Different kinds of self-care: physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, the whole idea of space. And we talked about financial and work. Next slide, please. A quick time check here. Okay, so this is your self-care wheel. And if you look at this, you have a blank one in your packet, in your handouts. But if you look, this people use this wheel, as you know, in a partner abuse, all kinds of things. You see this wheel, homelessness. But this is for you. This is for good stuff for us to do. So looking at the different ways that we would take care of ourselves. And so not just the playing golf or the manicure. It's the physical, the psychological self-care. Next slide, please. These are examples of some of the physical self-care. And some of them seem like, well, everybody has that. Well, of course, everyone doesn't have that, right? So having safe housing, having a place that you get regular medical care, getting enough sleep, asking for nurturing. That one thing of, well, if they should know that I need it, they don't know. So maybe we need to say something about that. Okay, turning off the cell phone, things like that. Those are our physical self-cares. Next, please. Psychological, being able to work on our social emotional intelligence skills, our emotional intelligence skills, being able to get support and ask for support, asking for what we need, doing things that bring you joy, right? Doing things that bring you joy is a part of that psychological self-care. Next one, please. Emotional self-care. I love some of these. It's like flirting. Like flirting to me is kind of a cool emotional self-care. If you're able to flirt, it's okay that you flirt. Social justice. These are things that we don't always think about, but they are, right? Because it's like, oh, I get to celebrate who I am. I get to celebrate my individual unique beauty and the fun part of me. I get to, when I'm engaged in social justice things, I'm connected to something bigger than I am and something important, and that helps my emotional stuff. When I cry, the release, it's wonderful. So that's another part of my emotional self-care. Next slide, please. Personal self-care, I think we know this one pretty well. Next, please. The professional self-care. This one I think is huge. Because what do you mean self-care in the profession? I'm working, what am I doing here? But one is like getting regular supervision, having good colleagues, going to training so that you feel competent and you know that you have the skills you need to do your work, knowing that you have things that help make your work more efficient, getting the support of colleagues, learning to say no. And am I saying look at your CEO or supervisor and say no? Of course, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that everything doesn't have to be a yes. It can be a hi, this, or which was the priority, all those kind of things that you ask in interview questions, right? That actually do them yourself. Next, please. So I'm saying your turn because in your packet are these blank wheels. And so you can do this with your team, you can do it with yourself, you can do it with your hana, you can do it with your best friend, whatever you want. But just to be able to look and kind of reflect with yourself, reflect and say, where are the areas around self-care that I need to do that aren't just this physical things that we talk about, right? Or not working so much, but how do I do that? And one more slide, please. Going back to this review, we will have the ability to, I guess, just be our best selves. And the self-care starts with these very foundational, basic, but not necessarily easy things, right? Do work that you love, find ways to love things that you do, cultivate and nurture your relationships, know and share and celebrate your culture, stand in the strength and the wisdom of the 10,000 who came before you and who are standing with you, embrace humility, need less, play, be authentic, ask for what you need, practice gratitude, appreciate the silence, love yourself like you do others, and practice and accept forgiveness. It's a gift for us, right? Not just the person that we're giving it to. So next slide, please. Thank you so much. Mahalo, and I am just so happy to be able to hang out with you guys for an hour. That went by really fast, but we have some, if you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
So this is the time where if anyone has any comments, questions, or thoughts that you could share them with our presenter, Jani.
Oh, you're welcome.
Don't be shy. I'm sure someone has had some thoughts about this. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak, or you can write something in the chat. Elizabeth, yes.
Yeah, so resources, isn't that a matter of perception? Because really, if there's something you can do with the resources you have, then maybe trying to do something you're not resourced to do, is there like a wrong decision? Richie Davidson has this video about mindfulness meditation practice where first you focus on how safe you are. Wow, 2.5 minutes of knowing that you're safe, then 2.5 minutes of knowing that you're resourced, and then 2.5 minutes of knowing that you are connected. And he says that actually improves your brain. He studied it using MRIs, and he says it physically changes the brain. It makes it more functional. maybe just focusing on knowing what your resources are and how resourced you are help you make a decision. What to do.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I think that's really cool. I thank you so much. Thank you, one, for again bringing up the mindfulness. I think that's something that we just can't say enough. We just cannot say enough until we start doing it, right? And being mindful. And then also when you said it's perception, absolutely. Absolutely, it's perception. Now, but my perception, and my perception is powerful, right? So if I come from a space of deprivation or a place where, there's never enough deficiency, then my perception around not having enough, it's my perception. It may not be what's really there, but it really does move me in a different way than when I say I have enough, right? It moves me in a different way. If I have a family member and they have what a lot of us might consider a lot of resources, right? But that family member, whenever you ask him how he is, it's never good, because his perception, which is his perception, and that matters, right, is that he doesn't have enough. He never has enough. So it's always coming from that place. Versus another friend, this is a friend person, a friend, not family, but my chosen family, has nothing compared to the resources that this individual has, physical and money and all that kind of stuff. But I tell you, they have the best time. They feel like they have a lot. So if you were to sit with them at a meal, you would feel like they must be millionaires to be serving you this meal. They must be, but they're not, because the love that goes into it, right? There's abundance. And so that person comes from a place of abundance. As programs, when we would come from a place of need, we start counting the pencils at work, right? And the pens, or, we don't have enough. You can't have that. You only get 1 pen a month. And so coming from that versus, hi, we do have enough, and we can make this work. So I get you, and I really thank you, Elizabeth. That's awesome. Great perspective. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yep. I just wanted to say that there's a whole lot of research and hints and whatever based on caregivers. In other words, someone that's taking care of someone else in terms of vulnerability or disability. And the caregivers always sometimes end up suffering more than the vulnerable person, because they just put so much out there and haven't reserved any time for themselves. So a lot of your hints really, or a lot of your strategies are exactly the same that the research supports. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ben. I think that, just so you know, one of the things that started this particular self-care one was actually working with individuals who were coaches for homeless individuals. But these people were also formerly homeless. And so to have what you just said about the caregiver and what the support that they need, absolutely. Thank you for that. Perfect. Perfect. Anyone else? Yes.
And I think there's also a gender aspect to this. I remember reading a book years ago called The Second Shift, and how women will take on, not just their domestic activities, but also the other things. Whereas with, that often men will flip over, but they, you would expect that maybe men would do a lot more, but they hire it out, or they go out to dinner, or they take care of themselves. And so, I think that there may be some gender differences in the way that we relate to self-care.
Absolutely, Suzanne, absolutely. And when I was saying earlier about culture, I was not limiting that to race and ethnicity. I was including gender identity. I was including male, female, I'm sorry, gender identity, gender itself. And yeah, so I think that's a really great point, that as women, that it depends on the age too, because I've had other people on my team that are much, much younger than I am, much. And they're like, no. Oh, okay. They have a whole different energy sometimes. And it's awesome, right? So I think, again, what your point is well taken. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Hi.
Yes. Mm.
I was wondering, at the beginning, you said something, I can't remember the exact slide, about also thinking about who you are and where you come from as you're considering self-care. Can you kind of go back to that for a little bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll just speak from the first person. And this, what I said is that celebrating your culture, right? And so there were times when I was younger that I would hide pieces of my culture because they weren't acceptable, right? For example, in California, and it's one of few states, there's something called the Crown Act, which forbids employers for discriminating against people based on their hair. And this came out because people were not allowed to wear dreadlocks or braids or whatever that wasn't considered professional. And so they actually had to come up with a law, right? And this is only like maybe 3 or 4 years old. So my point being is that there have been some times where people have been unable to speak their language, to dress in the way that their individual culture might dress, to celebrate their music, to bring their food in. It's like without someone going, what's that smell in the kitchen? You know what I mean? And so it's like all these different things. So when we have an opportunity to actually celebrate ourselves, our culture, and share that with other people, what a wonderful way to say I love myself, right? And self-care. That's where that's about, James.
Thank you so much. Really
You're
enjoyed
welcome.
this.
I'm so glad. Yay. Anyone else? So Julie, I want to thank you. Julie and I are fellows, and I'm not sure if we're Weinberg fellows or Pono fellows. Are we Pono? No, I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. I just was so glad to be back in contact, and I really thank you guys so much. Mahalo, 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 for letting me come and be a part of my Hawaii community again. I don't care if it's Zoom, I can still feel the aloha.
So
Thank
with
you.
that, let's give the virtual applause or the thumbs up or what you have to Jani. We're so glad you could join us. Zoom has presented us opportunities to have different things happen. So very exciting that we got to have you. Last time I saw you was in Oahu, so I'm really excited. Please do fill out that online survey if you didn't already. I put it in the chat box a couple times. I'll put it in here again. And then also I'm letting you know about that free workshop. If you want to join us on December 1st, we have room. It's going to be really great. Thank you for coming today. Do check your email the next coming weeks. We'll send the recording out of this and I'll send the handouts, and it's going to have those self-care wheels and stuff. So you'll get those and you can practice doing those and share them with your team. And hope to see you next month. We'll have Don Macon here talking, and would love to have you join us again. So happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate that. And I think gratitude was one of the things Jani talked about. So I think giving thanks, no matter what time of year it is a good way to practice self-care. So sending some all to you. Have a great day. Aloha.